Storytime job. My friend Chris and I are models, and we have been for the last 5 years. Usually modeling is everything you think it is, but over the last month or so I think it's been shifting into something repulsive. This all started one night when Chris and I were out at a casting call. Neither one of us were able to book a job, so we were sitting outside when this really weird guy came up to us. He asked us if we were models and if we were interested in going to another casting call. Chris and I figured why not, since we were still trying to find work. It was all fine until I asked for the address, and the weird guy said he would just drive us. Getting into a strange man's car felt like a terrible idea, so I asked again for the address, and this guy still wouldn't tell us. Chris and I were pretty desperate to make some money, so I finally agreed to go without knowing where we were going. I remember thinking, what's the worst that could happen, but I never could have guessed just how horrifying it would all turn out. The weird guy made a phone call, and within a couple of minutes this huge white van with no windows in the back pulls up to the curb. I looked over at Chris to make sure we were really getting into a strange van that had no windows with no idea where we were going. Chris didn't even flinch and was already walking towards the van. Everything about the situation felt like a trap, and I just wanted to get out of there. But I didn't want to leave Chris. I tried grabbing his arm and pulling him back, but he told me not to touch him, and then he said I was being paranoid. I asked the guy if he could at least tell me what company we would be modeling for, and what he said put the final nail in the coffin. It was some huge name designer, and that was all Chris needed to hear. He got in the van, and I almost went with him, but I felt like alarm bells were ringing in my head. I let Chris go alone, and I knew it would be the last time I saw him. But I was wrong, and what actually happened is so much worse. That night Chris didn't come back to our apartment, and no matter how many times I called him, it just went to voicemail. I tried telling the police, but that went nowhere. After 2 weeks of trying to do everything I could to find Chris with no luck, I was desperate. So I did the one thing I said I would never do. I went to the designer store the weird guy said we'd be working for. I thought I would ask the people working there if they knew anything about how models were chosen, but I wasn't in the store for 5 minutes when I saw something that made my stomach sink. It was Chris dressed from head to toe in designer, but something about his skin was off. I walked over to him and called his name, but he didn't move a muscle. I reached out to touch his arm, but before I could, I heard someone shout, "Please do not touch the mannequins." I guess Chris got the job.